Hi folks, Matt here from the RCR podcast, and today I'm going to be talking to you about erecting a building in your garden. You need to listen to this first.
Okay, people, welcome to Ask the Arb Microcast, helping homeowners, developers, and architects get your planning back on track by demystifying tree surveys. Your host is Matt Harmsworth, so sit back and relax and let us help you get your planning back on track.
So this is a interesting one. I guess it was probably, September last year, something like that. I had spent the last, 10 years, I suppose, staying in quite a remote old tumble-down farmhouse, and the beauty of that particular property was the fact that I had more than enough space to store all my man toys. So, motorbikes, all the usual kind of things that blokes accumulate over time, gardening tools, all that kind of good stuff. And then in September we moved closer to the office here in Inverness, so myself and my partner moved into town, and we've got a nice house, but what we haven't got is a huge shed. So luckily I had a garage. Well, I've converted the garage to put the motorbikes and all that kind of good stuff in, but you know what it's like, boys and their toys, you've got to have somewhere to put this kind of kit. Which got me to thinking yesterday, whilst I was at home recovering from the dreaded COVID, I started thinking about a chap called Dan. Dan reached out to us, it's probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago now, and Dan was in a state of absolute sheer panic when he got in contact with us, and he basically sleepwalked himself into a really, really common planning trap, actually, around permitted development. So just have a sip of my spectacular coffee. I need that today. And Dan reached out to us. The reason he reached out to us is he'd sleepwalked himself into this planning trap, and the trap was that he had decided he was going to put a building in his garden, a shed, if you like, a fairly substantial, sizable shed, but a shed nonetheless, and this shed was going to be for storing his motorbikes and man toys in and all that kind of good stuff. And Dan had realised that he could do this under permitted development rights. The building was far enough from the boundary, it was less than 2 metres high, all of that kind of good stuff was not an issue. So he starts putting the base in, so he excavates for the base, pours his concrete, gets his base in, and then him and his partner are having a conversation in the garden one evening over a gin and tonic, no doubt, and she said, "Do you know what, Dan, what would be fantastic here would be if we could if we could have a garden gym, and that part of the building could be allocated for me for the gym, because look, I'm spending £1,500, £2,000 a year at the moment on going to the gym. It takes me away from the family, etc., etc. Let's have a look at having a section of the building as a gym." So once the initial horror had worn off for Dan that he was going to have to give up valuable motorbike space, he started thinking this through, and a challenge came to mind straight away. And the challenge was that, I don't know how many of you are into going to the gym, lifting weights, all that kind of good stuff, but his partner was into weights, and essentially one of the manoeuvres that she was doing involved lifting a barbell above her head with some weight plates on it. And you can see where this is going now. I'm not quite sure how tall his partner is. These things tend not to come up in conversation, but the reality of the fact is that a barbell above her head, it was going to be going above 2 meters. There was no way around that, and the equipment and the racking and all that kind of good stuff that she needed for these weights was sitting a good sort of 2.4 meters tall. So the problem there is they've dug the shed base, but because they need a higher garage, they now need planning consent. So Dan, being the good lad that he is, gets into contact with the local planning authority, slaps in a planning application, and the planning officer says, "It's come to our attention that you've already started this building." And he says, "Yeah, that's right, I have." And we had a change of plan halfway through. So the planning officer comes out, visits the site, And sitting close to the boundary of the site is a linear feature of protected trees. So these trees have got tree preservation orders on them. Now, it's an offence to lop, top, prune, damage or do anything that could negatively impact a tree with a tree preservation order on it. And Dan has already poured his concrete base, so he's in a bit of a pickle now. We're helping him out. We're doing some air spade investigations and all that kind of good stuff, and I'm sure we'll turn it around. So, but I just thought that was a useful anecdote to share. So today, I'd have you consider the possibility that if you are looking to put a building in your garden or a new garage or something like that, you're looking to do it under permitted development rights, just have a quick check, make sure that your project isn't going to affect trees, because regardless of whether the project falls within permitted development rights or not, you've still got an obligation to make sure you don't damage protected trees. So that's it from me today, folks. I will speak to you on the next one. And that's it for today, folks. Thanks a lot for listening to the RCR microcast. Remember, if you've ever had any value whatsoever from this podcast, you could do me a massive favour by heading over to wherever you get your podcasts and leaving us a review. Thanks a lot for listening to the show, and I will speak to you on the next one. Cheers, bye.